double checking something.
Good morning, guys. I hear you loud and clear.
Good, good. How
Awesome.
are you
Did
doing
you
today?
Good, good.
did you have trouble finding the link or the invite?
You know what? When I went on it looked like my network was dragging and it took a little while to get in, probably about 3 or 4 minutes. But
Wow.
the link was fine though. I mean, it went through.
Huh.
Why is this not? Oh, wow. You didn't send out the email today.
I got your email yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, about the meeting. And then right now it just notified me.
I sent out a platinum, all platinum deal.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, on the Discord. Oh, there's Scott.
Yeah. I think they'll
Okay.
come in, slowly, but
Yeah, here we go. There's
Yeah, I just looked at my email thing and it said there are some customers are experiencing a delay in
yeah.
the reminder. See if I can send
I
it
think it'll
now.
catch up the
Hey,
algorithm.
I had Discord freeze on me after an update. I had to
Oh.
reboot my machine twice to get it to go, so that might be the issue.
was that today?
Yeah.
Mine was yesterday. It just blanked me out.
By the way, I'm on my mobile phone.
Okay.
I'm not on the computer.
Mine
Maybe
showed
maybe
pictures
that's why it
of
went so
Kerry's
fast.
meeting.
Yeah,
I
they
saw
just
you were
said,
you were on the live channel, Scott. Is David coming over? Esther was on there too.
I don't know if they're coming over or not. I just cut them off because I couldn't get in. So Kerry's channel, picture of Kerry's channel. You guys weren't there, and now
I
you
didn't,
were.
I didn't get an email about this either. So I
no,
don't know
I
if I
just
sent it or not.
I just checked my constant contact that we send emails out on, and it just said some customers are experiencing problems with email being sent out, and so I just sent a reminder, but it still
Okay.
is trying to get sent out. So there's a problem on my end,
We'll blame
which I have
the
no
Chinese
control of.
hackers.
What's that?
So we'll blame the Chinese hackers.
That's right.
Yeah.
There are a few.
Did you see that information I posted on your in your office, Trent?
I did. I haven't had a chance to read it,
Okay.
but I will.
Yeah, it's got
What's your
the
go ahead?
the carry trades.
I looked at it.
Basically, it boils down to is you have to keep an eye on the Bank of Japan and what they're going to do when their FOMC comes due in December. But all indications point to they're going to raise rates. Then
Yeah.
again, are they going to play the politics and not do it because it's going to affect the U.S. markets? And right now they're dealing with Trump and tariffs and what have you. So you don't know where they're going to fall in it. This is basically the gist of the article, but it's
Huh.
something to definitely keep our eyes on.
Yeah.
There was
Definitely, yeah.
something else I put up there too. It was a video I had come across, and the guy was talking about divergence. So I shared it based upon that. But the guy's selling his friend's trading system, and also just take that with a grain of salt. But the analysis
Okay.
on the macro is good, in
Okay.
my opinion, my humble opinion.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, I read it. It was good. I liked it.
Yeah, this guy, Lee Lag, he's really good on the macro level, and you get a really good feel for what goes on. I stumbled upon him on X, but
Oh,
everything he
okay.
says has been right on the money for past year. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Cool.
he's
Yeah, I'll
got
definitely check it out.
he's got an
Yep, there's
insight.
David.
He likes rotational trading, which is really fickle, and
Yeah.
you have to have a certain wherewithal to get into that kind of thing. But
Yep.
it's not for me. But he's got a fund or an ETF, and it's
Everyone's got a process. You got to make it your own, basically.
yeah, that's
I'm
what he
gonna
does.
I'm
But he
gonna get
gives you on a daily basis, he'll give you ideas of high yields.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
If you looked at the article, the first part of it was probably a sales pitch on one of the funds that he's talking about, of
Huh.
which I bought a couple and did pretty well. One was a
Okay.
floating rate bonds from BlackRock, and that did well. It was paying almost 12%.
That's not bad.
Wow.
No,
Yeah,
for a bond fund, that's good, but you know your risk is huge. It's
yeah.
all
Yeah.
floating rates, so it's all unsecured.
So David, you just got on. Did you have trouble getting on? Was there a
No,
delay?
we were in the other channel with
Okay.
Esther and Scotty, and
Okay.
all of a sudden we looked at the clock and said, "Oh crap!"
Yeah, they sent out a notice. Okay,
Mark's
we didn't
giving
know.
us the update of the century, I'm sure.
Oh, you're so full of crap. So, all right, I'm gonna get going. We're gonna do some economic news, and I'm gonna get into some stocks that just stock news, and then we'll look at the charts of those stocks that had news this week. There's a lot of stuff going on, but the main thing that started out, Monday morning was we found out that President allowed Ukraine to target military sites in Russia using U.S.-made long-range weapons. And then last September, if you remember, Putin said that would change the very nature of the conflict, and that would mean that NATO countries, the U.S., European countries, and the United States are at war with Russia. And the first deputy of the Russian upper house said this week, this is a very big step towards the start of World War III. So I thought that may have more effect on energy prices and things, but it really didn't. And the market was just kind of numb to it. So anyway, it's still sitting out there. And I saw the other day or today that, one of the targets that they have is one of our bases in Poland. And it's just, over the weekend, it seems like things happen on the weekend. So when you look at your positions and things, on the paper trade portfolio, I closed out the Marathon Oil because I didn't know what was going to happen. We had a little bit of a profit on that, but just be careful on the swing trades because things happen over the weekend, and this is hanging out there. And I get to thinking, there's so much rush to push more money into the Ukraine and to keep this thing going. In the middle of a transfer of power between two different parties, two different presidents, and when you think about it, you got to wonder, well, why are they in such a rush to continue, to poke the bear a little bit? And then this week, right after that story came out, the Pentagon had an audit from the DoD, Department of Defense, and it failed its seventh audit in a row, failing to account for more than $824 billion from the 2024 budget. And that was from the Inspector General. The auditors said they could not obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence to even give an opinion on where it went. In a statement, the Pentagon Inspector General said there has been little progress since 2005, almost 20 years ago. So, and that's $824 billion. And I would think that would be a bigger deal. That's a lot of money, of our money. Okay. I'm just thinking, God, what could we have done with $824 billion here? But it just, when you connect dots, you're like, how much of that money is being funded through the hierarchy of Ukraine or being sent back through our Department of Defense contractors, or even ending up in the pockets of maybe some of our elected officials? I don't know that for sure, but if I were an elected official, I would be jumping up and down, but I don't hear any of them really caring about that. So anyway, that's just a thought of mine. It's just my opinion, but it's affecting, Jamie Dimon. He told an audience this week at the Institute of International Finance that his team at JP Morgan is running scenarios in preparation for a global conflict involving nuclear powers. He told the crowd that war was imminent and nuclear proliferation was greater existential threat than climate change. So I find it interesting. The market is not the economy, and the market is not the news, I guess, in some ways. And it's like I live in two different worlds. On one side of the world, we're talking about nuclear war, and the other side, markets hit all new highs. So it just always baffles me. And and entertains me at the same time, but it is out there. So we had a lot of economic news this week, not serious, Fed stuff, but today the U.S. Composite PMI came out, and a measure of U.S. business activity rose to a 30-month high in November, boosted by hopes for lower interest rates and more business-friendly policies from President-elect Donald Trump's administration next year. S&P Global said on Friday that its flash U.S. Composite PMI Output Index, which tracks the manufacturing service sector, increased to 55.3. That's an expansion over 50. That was the highest level since April of 2022, and followed that reading of 54.1 in October. So there's a lot of optimism out there, apparently, from the potential change of the administrations. When I was watching halftime report yesterday, and they were in San Francisco, and I forget who they were talking to. He was a high tech, and they were trying to get him. You say, well, after this election, is there a lot of animosity? He says, no, actually, I'm seeing more hope and happiness, and that we're going to see less taxes, we're going to see less regulations, we're going to be able to grow our businesses. I think so. You're seeing the business community become a little more enthusiastic, just because of a change in administrations. That's my opinion, but I've seen it, in the news too. Initial unemployment came out. The number of individuals filing for unemployment benefits fell by only 6,000 from the previous week. These are initial claims, okay? However, the number of Americans filing for continuous jobless claims, long-term, jumped back above 1.9 million for the first time since November 2021. So it's showing that we're about the same, about 213,000, 200,000 on initial claims, but people aren't coming off the back end. It's actually going up. And the number is actually 2 million that I've heard of. When it hits 2 million or above, that's when you start seeing more of the recessionary kind of activity happening in the economy. Household debt. This is a big thing. We've talked about it every week. The Federal Reserve came out, talked about total household debt increased by 147 billion to reach 17.94 trillion. And that was according to the latest quarterly report on household debt and credit from the Fed this week. Aggregate delinquency rates edged up from the previous quarter, with 3.5% of outstanding debt in some stage of delinquency. When you look at the debt, credit card balances increased by 24 billion to hit 1.17 trillion, and auto loan balances saw an $18 billion increase and stood at 1.64 trillion. HELOC balances, this is where you take out loans against the equity in your house, increased by 7 billion to reach 387 billion, representing the 10th consecutive quarter increase since Q1 of 2022. So again, we're seeing more people spending on their credit, both in cars and credit, and now they're taking out loans for 10 consecutive quarters on their house. Other balances, which include retail cards, other consumer loans, remained effectively flat, with $2 billion increase on those. Student loan balances grew by 21 billion and now stand at 1.61 trillion. In total, non-housing balances grew by 65 billion, a 1.3% rise from Q2 2024. And with increased credit, we have increased delinquencies. Credit card delinquency rates improved just a little bit, with 8.8% of the balances transitioning to a delinquency compared to 9% in the previous quarter. So we dropped down a little. Early delinquency transitions for auto loans and mortgage worsened slightly, rising by 0.2 and 0.3. About 126,000 consumers had a bankruptcy notation added to their credit reports this quarter, a small decline from the previous quarter. And those that are flowing into serious delinquency, and serious delinquency is 90 days. We called it default when it went that far. I was in the student loan industry, and we had 90 days to work with our borrowers so they didn't go into default. And that was under one of my departments. So for mortgage debt, in Q3 2023, it was 0.72% were in serious delinquency. In the last quarter, it was 1.08% for mortgage debt. Student loan debt was 7.77 and 0.77, so it stayed the same. Auto loan debt in Q3 2023 was 2.53% of loans. It's now 2.9%. Credit card debt was 5.78% in Q3 2023, and now it's 7.1%. So quite an increase in credit card debt. So again, we're not telling you guys anything we haven't talked about forever. You know, people are using their credit cards, using their home equity to help pay their bills. Anyone have any thoughts on that before I move on?
No, it just seems like it's just will continue for a while from what I see.
Yeah, and I think if you go and you look at bank loans too, you know, banks are not loaning out money either. You know, they've raised the standards of their credit scores to even have a loan. So, you know, just keep that in the back of your mind. When you think about automobiles, 39% of automobiles financed since 2022 have a negative equity. Okay, so they're underwater. And that includes 46% of electric vehicles in 2024, and that's according to CarEdge. And then a new study by Qualitrix on behalf of Intuit and Credit Karma, 49% of consumers feel stressed about affording the holidays this year, while 61% say that inflation and higher costs have significantly impacted their holiday spending budgets. Doesn't affect mine because I don't have a spending budget for holidays. I've already told Jan that this is what you get, nothing. So anyway, and that's what she gets me too. So we don't have the problem with that. Housing. U.S. existing home sales in the U.S. rose by 3.5% from the previous month to a seasonally adjusted annualized rate of 3.96 million in October, rebounded from a 14-year low of 3.83 million, slightly ahead of market expectations. So existing home sales, homes that are like you and I live in, we're selling, went up month over month. Meanwhile, mortgage rates, the average interest rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage rose for a 4th straight week to 6.9%. The highest level since early July, was compared to 6.8% in the previous week. So when you think about that, you know, the whole narrative was, hey, look, the Fed was lowering rates, so that's going to help on mortgages. It's going to help feed the economy. And as we all know, and as we've all talked about, the Fed rate is just the rate they loan between themselves and the banks, the overnight rate. Okay, and the 10-year Treasury is really what affects mortgages and credit cards, and the 10-year Treasury has continued to go up ever since they've raised by 50 basis points. Housing starts came out this week. So when you think about housing starts, Trent and I talked about this. This is the amount of houses being started for sale sometime in the future. Okay, so probably 6-8 year away. Housing starts in the U.S. fell by 3.1% to 1.3 million in October, compared to a downward revised 1.35 million in September. So it got downward revised and below the forecast of 1.33. Housing starts continue to face challenges amidst an increasing inventory to new homes for sale and mortgage rates around 7%. Starts of single family homes plunged 7%, equivalent to an annualized rate of 0.97 million. While starts for houses with 5 units or more, it's like apartments, they were up by 9.8%. So what that's telling me is the housing industry is building, looking at more multi-unit housing, which is apartments, than they are right now in single-family homes. And if you look at the economy and the stories, you see people, younger people especially, are having trouble getting into their first homes because of the cost of homes, because of inflation, because of the interest rates. And that's backed up again by another leading indicator. Building permits fell by 0.6% to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 1.4 million in October. That was, or 1.41 million, and that's below expectations of 1.43 million. So we're seeing also building permits go down. And that's, you know, when you look out, those are, again, you pull a building permit, I think you have a certain amount of time before you have to pull another one or start on it. Housing starts are slowing because we have inventory out there and prices aren't, and houses aren't moving. You know, in certain parts of the country, I'm sure they are. A lot of the country, they're not at this point. We've talked to Trent already about down in his area, which is a resort area. They're not moving down there. So again, that's kind of a leading indicator. Keep that in the back of your mind. We had some manufacturing data come out, and you know, manufacturing is still in a recession as far as I'm concerned. The Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index declined to negative 5.5 in November from 10.3 in October, and well before below the forecast of 8. It's the second negative reading since January. The assigned manufacturing activity in the region softened overall. The Kansas City Fed's manufacturing index fell to -4 in November, down from 0 in the previous month. The volume new orders declined further into negative territory, registering a -9, while backlogs remained unchanged at -14. Additionally, the number of employees index rebounded to 1 from -2 in October, but the average employee work week index dropped to -9. So kind of even on employees, but the work week hours worked per week is down. Year over year, the composite index for factory activity fell further to -18 from -14. So we're still not seeing a pickup in manufacturing yet, at least from the reports we saw this week. So then the big thing is, well, what's the Fed going to do? We've got Treasury rates going up. We've got housing kind of slumping a little bit. We still have manufacturing. The stock market's still going up at all-time highs. So this week, Michelle Bowen, Fed governor, said she prefers to proceed cautiously with further interest rate cuts as progress in reducing inflation has slowed. If you remember last week, I think Chairman Powell came out and said, he's not opposed to slowing on the interest rate cuts. The market went down. Boston Fed President Susan Collins said that more rate cuts are necessary. The policymakers should proceed with caution to avoid moving either too quickly or too slowly. So it sounds like, I don't know if we're going to have a raise or a lowering actually in coming up in December. It sounds like we could have a pause. We'll see what happens, because they're looking at the same data we're looking at. So that's kind of the abbreviated economic news. There wasn't all that much out this week, so which I'm glad. But most of the news was company news. So I'm going to spend a little time on companies. I'm going to go through a list of company news and what I saw, some of the companies we talk about on the Discord. And then I'll go through the charts of each one of these companies and we'll see what the effect was. And then after that, we can have a discussion on whatever you want. We can look at more charts. So I'm going to start with Super Micro Computer. This has been quite a story on Super Micro. So I know we've talked about it on the Discord, but this week, Super Micro price was up, and it was a top percentage gainer on the S&P 500 and Nasdaq. And the big story was that they appointed a new independent auditor and submitted a compliance plan to Nasdaq. Super Micro hired an accounting firm, BDO, as its new auditor, and that represents kind of a make or break moment for these guys to win back confidence of investors and also not to get delisted. Okay, but when you look at BDO, it's kind of have a shady past also. So I was wondering, that this was the auditor of last choice for Super Micro. So looking at BDO, in almost 9 out of every 10 audits that BDO produced last year, BDO failed to provide supporting evidence for the conclusions it's published about its clients. That's according to the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board. That rate of deficiencies was the highest among the 6 U.S.-based global accounting firms in the PCAOB survey, according to the report that the board published in August. The report caught the attention of Senator Elizabeth Warren and Sheldon Whitehouse. Nearly every audit conducted by BDO in 2023 was found by your inspectors. This is Elizabeth Warren. Was found by your inspectors to be deficient, the senator wrote in October. Why did the PCAOB choose not to invoke BDO's auditing license? BDO was also fined $2 million last year for failing to properly vet revenue calculations in the 2018 audit of an addiction treatment provider. And in October, a New York appeals court ruled that BDO could be sued for allegations that it falsely certified its audit of insurance giant AmTrust Financial a decade earlier. So it's interesting that that's the only auditor that they could find. So just be aware, with all the excitement and momentum that they have an auditor, that this is who the auditor is. I think some of the other issues that aren't really being reported are the potential loss of customers that Super Micro has. So I found a story that XAI, which is Elon Musk's AI startup, has shifted all AI server orders from Super Micro to Dell. Dell, already among the largest makers of servers, benefits from this decision, just like its suppliers Inventec and Wistron However, losing a multi-billion-dollar business to rivals amid potential delisting at NASDAQ could devastate Supermicro. Dell, among the largest AI server suppliers, is well positioned to absorb these orders. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago in Kerry's Zoom call. Wistron, which produces motherboards for Dell's AI servers and does some assembly tasks, is one of the biggest beneficiaries of this shift. Wistron is expanding its production capacity to meet the surge in demand, particularly in its three Hitachi facilities in Taiwan and its Mexican operations. Wistron is optimistic about the growing demand for AI servers and aims for triple-digit annual income. Inventec, another major supplier for Dell, is also reaping the rewards from this order realignment. Inventec has long been involved in AI server production as one of Dell's top 3 global server assembly partners. This year, the company primarily supplied machines based on NVIDIA's Hopper processors. Still, the report claims that the company will be ready to mass produce NVIDIA's Blackwell-based machines in the first quarter of 2025. The company reportedly has spare manufacturing capacity in Mexico, so will likely be able to produce more AI servers for companies formerly served by Supermicro. If Supermicro is delisted, it could face serious financial repercussions, including a sharp decline in stock value, which we've seen, but now it's picked up, and the immediate repayment of $1.725 billion in convertible notes, potentially severely hurting the company. Consequently, Elon Musk does not want to take any risk and is shifting orders of AI servers to other companies. So this is the only story I could find about if anyone was shifting away from Supermicro. But I would think, and tell me if I'm wrong, Elon Musk is doing that Microsoft and anyone else who has these orders is probably doing the same thing. And we talked about Dell, and did they have capacity? And it's obviously that Dell has been thinking about this, been working with their supply base, and this is what's happening. So you may see more business being taken away from Supermicro. We just haven't seen it in the press yet. Anyone got any thoughts on Supermicro? Because I know you guys are really interested in the stock.
I'm accumulating Dell.
Yeah, I would say Dell would probably be a good one. We'll look at the chart after we go through all this, but yeah. Anyone else?
I think that interview with Jensen Huang, Michael Dell, and the CEO of is it Now Services or ServiceNow?
ServiceNow.
It was a couple months ago. It may have been sort of a sign of that relationship between Jensen Huang and Michael Dell, knowing I gotta believe they knew something was going to go wrong with SMCI, and maybe that was the catalyst for that meeting. I don't know, but when you start to look at things and the behavior of SMCI since March of this year, it's like somebody knew something, and going forward. So it's interesting.
It's always the supply base that knows something's up first, because I worked, at Compact Computer, and I was in charge of their supplier base, 2,500. And when we got slow or something or fast, the orders either got cut down or they got picked up. So supply base knows right away, what's happening in the economy more than anyone else. And I'm sure that when the word got out about Supermicro, all these purchasing departments started on the phone, and probably one of the first calls was Dell Computer, I'd imagine.
I would. Yeah.
Yep.
If you think about it, it's them and Hewlett Packard.
Yeah.
Who are the other alternatives? So
There's no word on the street of Hewlett Packard doing this type of work, though, is there?
I never heard of it.
Well, you don't know what they do, because Hewlett Packard bought Compaq. The fact that they are assembly houses, kind of like Dell, that you would imagine that maybe HP is trying to steal away engineers or managers, maybe SMCI managers, or so that HP is not. They're smart enough to say, we have an opportunity here. How fast can we ramp up? I wouldn't put it past them, Paul. I would do it as a business. If I'm going to grow my business and I see a wounded business over there, I want as much market as I can. So I'd imagine there's discussions at HP about how to do it, and if they could.
Something's going on, because they're almost up 6% today.
Well, there you go. I mean, there you go. Think about it. And so what we're talking about with super micro right here that no one else is talking about on CNBC is, I think, you're going to see, well, we've already got it from Elon Musk moving the Dell, and I'm sure that HP's right in the middle of that too because they're number two, you know. So yeah,
It's a low risk hedge. It's very low risk, right?
yeah, I think so.
But
I mean, it's a
HP
guess.
trades
It's a
underneath the
guess.
200. Yeah,
It's a
yeah, but it's
it's a guess. Yeah.
mm,
But it's, that's what we try to do. We try to look and see, where's it going to go, and I was in that industry of at least OEM manufacturing. So that's what I would do if I were still in the supply base. I would be looking that way. I'm sure they are. Okay.
Yeah.
Supermicro. We'll close that chapter and we'll look at the chart in a little bit. Associated Press said Monday that it would begin offering buyouts and layoffs of selected employees, part of a plan to reduce the news outlet staff by 8% and accelerate a transition to a digital first organization. I think you're starting to see kind of a change in media finally, from the televised media, and we'll get into Comcast in a minute. Because of this last election and the way that the Trump administration utilized like Joe Rogan and YouTube and things like we do here for almost free, okay? And he could get messages out. I think that's changed the way, or is changing the way news and data and information is distributed. And I think it's going more to what we're doing right here. We'll know more, but when you see things like the AP doing that, you're seeing things like newspapers laying people off. You just got to connect the dots and figure out what's going on. So we'll talk a little more about Comcast coming up, which is interesting too. And NVIDIA, okay, that was what we all waited for this week, and it started out on Sunday, and it was not good. As NVIDIA's new Blackwell AI chips have run into issues with overheating servers, creating concerns from customers that they won't have enough time to open new data centers. According to the report, Blackwell graphics processing uses overheat when they are connected together with server racks that are designed to hold up to 72 chips. Sources familiar with the issue said. NVIDIA staffers who have been taking on the issue reportedly said the company has repeatedly asked suppliers to change the design of the racks to avoid overheating problems. So that was out before the earnings. They've had issues with Blackwell, and we'll see what happens. I didn't listen to the earnings report or what they said about any of that. Did anyone about the overheating issue?
I haven't listened to it yet.
Okay, I haven't heard anything. So we'll move on because they did have earnings. Okay, and earnings beat quarterly profit expectations, but the company's projected its slowest revenue growth in 7 quarters, and its adjusted gross margin shrank, sending its shares down in pre-market trading the day after, on Thursday. What troubled investors this time was a quarter-on-quarter decline in gross margins, with guidance for them to fall further in the coming quarter and weaker than expected forward guidance for revenue. And I think Trent's been hitting on this for quarter after quarter, haven't you, Trent? Like, okay, we're doing
Yeah,
well on revenue, but we're seeing the percentage come down.
right. So trying to bring it up here. Here, I'll just share this with you all. So can you see this?
Yep.
Okay, so this is NVIDIA. So if I'm looking at revenue, quarterly, year-over-year growth, as well as earnings per share, net income, and I can throw any other statistic you want. You're seeing revenue has been declining since first quarter of 24. It was at 265. Second quarter was at 262. Do I have that right? No. Fourth quarter of 21. Do I have that right?
That's 24. That's
Yeah.
January, then you've got April, then you got July,
Yeah.
then you've got the last one. So you're right.
So you're seeing we went from 122% quarterly year-over-year growth in revenue to a 94 this past report. Earnings per share was 168 for a second quarter, and then this past quarter is 111% quarterly year-over-year growth. And net income also declined from 168 to 109%. So we're just continuously seeing this stair step down in NVIDIA. You know, and if I throw in AMD here, let's see what AMD is. Let's see, AMD. And you see something similar to it as well. You know, they did have revenue increase 18% over first quarter or second quarter, but when it came to earnings per share growth, substantially less. Went from a 700% increase to 161% increase, as well as net income went from 100 or 881% increase quarterly year-over-year growth to 158. So, which would explain possibly why they laid off 1,000 people. So you're starting to, I think you're seeing in this semiconductor category something similar, you know, amongst them all. And that is slowing overall. I mean, Intel is more of a disaster than anything. So yeah, I think it's as long as you see that continuation of slowing year-over-year
Revenue, yeah.
growth, it's obvious, you know, that things are changing. You
Yeah.
know, and we should expect them to slow.
And that the chart that Trent just shows, we're going to use this afternoon at the 3 o'clock call to go over. He asked for, you know, what do you want to look at from an investment standpoint? So he's got every company requested on there, and we're going to go over that, and we're going to go over with a long-term investing chart also, and we'll do a deep dive into what we can on those stocks you guys wanted to look at. So look forward to that at 3 o'clock. We put a lot of work into that worksheet. So appreciate that, Trent.
Yeah.
So that's NVIDIA. I think NVIDIA is down today. It was having issues trying to get over its resistance level, but we'll look at the chart later when we get done. Spirit Airlines, I hope no one has a ticket next month on Spirit Airlines, because it filed for bankruptcy on Monday after the no frills travel airline and struggle with long run quarterly losses, failed merger attempts, and looming debt maturities. Their stock, I think, was stopped. And last I looked, it was 15 cents. So they're going into bankruptcy. So that stock's not trading anymore. Marriott, okay. Marriott, again, part of the travel industry. Marriott posted, or in Maryland, they posted a WARN notice. This was an advance notice of layoffs, citing 833 layoffs by Marriott. The company had recently said it had about 5,000 workers associated with headquarters, which would imply a 16% workforce reduction. Other cuts are happening worldwide for Marriott. John Deere says it plans to suspend production at its Atomo plant for a month due to reduced demand for its products. The Atomo Works manufactures hay and forage equipment and is the home to Radar O'Reilly of the MASH series, supposedly in his character. Boeing, you know, the strike's over at Boeing. Boeing has issued a layoff notice to over 400 members of its professional aerospace labor union, the Society of Professional Engineering Employees in Aerospace. These cuts are part of Boeing's plan to reduce its workforce by 10%, or approximately 17,000 jobs in the coming month. CEO Kelly Ortberg cited the need to reset workforce levels to align with company's current financial reality. So again, we're seeing big layoffs all over, and at some point they're going to be reflected, and we're seeing it, you know, in the jobs report. So it'll be interesting in December to see what the new jobs report is, especially after the elections are over. Retail sales this week. So it was kind of a tale of two cities, and we had Walmart and Target. Walmart's U.S. sales at stores open for at least a year grew by 5.3% last quarter compared with the year prior. The company said Tuesday, and its profits grew 8.2% last quarter. Walmart raised its financial outlook. The signal expects strong holiday shopping season. Walmart said it gained market share last quarter, driven primarily from upper income households. Households making more than $100,000 a year accounted for 75% of the company's gains. Walmart, the largest retailer in the world, has drawn higher income customers by investing in grocery business and using its massive scale to drive down prices. It has also sharpened its assortment of clothing, electronics, home furnishings, and other goods. So we're seeing wealthier upper level income earners buy down, and a lot of it's in groceries, but they're buying down because, well, we looked at the credit card debt, we looked at car debts, we looked at loans they're taking out on homes. So, we're seeing it in retail. And then Target, who is a higher end, I guess, retailer in that space, reported disappointing margin performance for the fiscal third quarter on Wednesday, slashed the annual EPS forecast over market share losses. It's disappointing that a deceleration in discretionary demand combined with some cost pressures have caused us to take our guidance back down after raising it last quarter. That's their operating officer. So last quarter, if you remember, they raised their guidance, said this was going to be good. This quarter, it wasn't good, and now they're lowering their guidance going forward. Michael, the operating officer and former chief financial officer, told investors on an earnings conference call, "We believe it's prudent to take this conservative approach." So you're seeing upper income people, at least in the 100,000s range, now down shopping more to Walmart. Google, if anyone owns Google, you had a little pain the other day. Shares of Google fell following the U.S. Department of Justice announcement of sweeping remedies. Its high-profile antitrust lawsuits against Google. I think what they're trying to do is make them sell off their search engine division, if I'm correct. Is that right, Trent?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
we'll look at that chart later. It's not a good one. Meta, the U.S. Supreme Court on Friday declined to consider an appeal by Meta Platforms, meaning they'll have to face a lawsuit accusing of misleading shareholders regarding a 2015 data breach involving Cambridge Analytica. Amazon said Friday that it's making an additional $4 billion investment in Anthropic, and that the artificial intelligence company has named Amazon Web Services its primary training partner. Intuit reported fiscal Q1 non-GAAP earnings late yesterday, of $2.50 per diluted share, up from $2.47 a year earlier and above the consensus estimate. However, for fiscal Q2, the company expects non-GAAP EPS of $2.55 to $2.61 on revenue of $3.81 billion to $3.85 billion. Analysts expected $3.25 and $3.88 billion respectively, and I believe Intuit stock price is down today. Netflix, this is interesting. I don't know, any of you guys watch the fight last week? Tyson and Paul? Yeah. What'd you think of the fight? I mean, I thought it was kind of lame. I thought the fight with the girls before was better. Man, they really slugged it out. And I thought, I thought it was disappointing, the fight, because it was just like dancing around. And when you think one's getting 20 million, one's getting 40 million, it just wasn't worth it. And I know people had spooling problems too. And where we were watching it, it would go into a spool, and one TV would be way ahead of the other TV. Well, anyway, they're being sued over a breach of contract stemming from the buffering and glitches viewers experienced during the broadcast of Jake Paul's win over Mike Tyson. On Friday night at the Dallas Cowboys AT&T Stadium, Paul took on the iconic heavyweight Tyson, who made his first appearance in professional boxing in 19 years. The fight went the distance, with the younger Paul clinching victory on the judges' scorecards. But the event broadcast was deeply affected by buffering issues that began during the Mario Barros-Abel Ramos bout and only increased as the card played out. As a result, Florida resident Ronald Denton filed a class action lawsuit against Netflix, accusing the streaming giant of a breach of contract over the constant glitches. According to court documents obtained by TMZ, Netflix acknowledged the poor in streaming quality in the statement released Monday. That's just out there. I don't think it affected the stock price. Last I looked, it was doing pretty good. But anyway, it was interesting. And I know now that I think Texas has suspended both Tyson and Paul, pending investigations into that. There's a lot of money bet on these fights, and Paul said he could have knocked him out, but he didn't. And, there's money bet on who could knock who out. So this could turn into a huge fiasco. And anyway, that's not good for boxing.
I don't know if I heard that in the contract between the two, Tyson was not allowed to throw any uppercuts. And if you noticed, he didn't throw any.
But I did the betting public know that? I mean, because there's money bet on these fights. I mean, this could be
I don't know.
This could be devastating for boxing, I guess.
I don't know how true that is. I mean, you got to take a 50-50 chance it's fake. But if that's the case, that was always his move, But looking back, I don't remember him ever trying to throw one.
I don't either.
It's sort of odd. But yeah, no, I think it was Mike's retirement fund contribution that he did that fight. But
yeah,
I think it's a win for Netflix because we're all talking about it right now. It's all over the media, you know what I mean? And I think it's only good for people are making money just because it's all the traction.
Yeah, I think the whole deal about whether he laid off and didn't knock him out or made the fight go to 8 rounds just for entertainment purposes, which I think he said Paul did. That Netflix wouldn't be responsible for any of that or any of the losses and any bets that would have been out. They bet on everything, what round, what knockout, all that stuff. They wouldn't be responsible for that. I wouldn't think, Paul, but you never know. But you're right. We're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the media. My girlfriend watched the fight. I don't know anybody who didn't watch the fight.
Oh, every bar and restaurant that I saw had it on,
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I think that's what the deal is to make money, and they made a shitload of money. So
yeah,
it is what it is. I mean,
that's true.
it was a shitty fight. Who's expecting Tyson to do anything at 58? I mean, anytime you see any of these old time boxers go up at the ring, very rarely do they put any type of show on that's worth watching. They were smart to put the girls on because the girls had a previous fight and they rocked it out last time.
Yeah.
And the Mexicans were good too. I thought that was a good fight too.
There was a good card. I thought the card was good, except for the last fight. The last fight was kind of like an opera.
Yeah, but it didn't. It's not surprising, right? It didn't surprise you. It's like, yeah, I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, I don't pay for I don't have Netflix, so I'm glad I don't pay for it. But anyway, it's something, again, like I said, we're talking about it, So
yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, so that's our Netflix news. American Auto Parts, AAP, announced they will close 727 stores and 4 logistics centers as a part of strategy to avoid bankruptcy. This is huge. I mean, I like American Auto Parts. The decision comes after yet another disappointing quarterly report. Although gross turnover increased by 11%, operating costs also rose, and total revenue declined, exacerbating the company's financial woes. Ford said on Wednesday they announced 4,000 more job cuts in Europe, mostly in Germany and Britain. And the latest blow to the continent's beleaguered car industry. They're having issues with Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes also. The company has incurred significant losses in recent years, Ford said in a statement, blaming the industry shift to electrified vehicles and new competition. The move will affect 2,900 jobs in Germany, 800 in the UK, and 300 in Western Europe by the end of 2027. Comcast, this is interesting, right after the election. Comcast on Wednesday announced it will move forward with plans to spin off its NBC Universal Cable TV network, including MSNBC, CNBC, USA, Oxygen E, Sci-Fi, and the Golf Channel. The company will keep Bravo, as well as Peacock streaming services and NBC Broadcast Network. Executives are betting that the remaining assets, including in broadcast TV, sports, movies, and theme parks, will be better positioned for growth. So that's interesting. I know that after the election, a lot of the ratings at MSNBC have fallen along with CNN, and CNN has been doing a lot of layoffs also. And I just think when you think about it, it looks like a shift to me. And tell me if I'm wrong. Away from people gaining their information from legacy TV and more to stuff like we're doing online and podcasts and things. Is that a good analysis? Do you guys see that, or what's your thoughts?
I think,
You mean
um,
media wise? You're talking
Yeah.
people getting,
Yeah.
oh, there's no question that, and I'm trying, if you wanted to go first, but
No, go
younger,
ahead.
no, go ahead,
young,
please.
younger,
Go ahead, Paul.
I'm people talk on social media, like things like X and Facebook, and podcasts are as big as ever. I mean, you could look at Spotify, their numbers just keep on growing. And anyone that I know gets, I'll say, the more, I don't like the word trustworthy, but you're getting people
I
on
think you're
there for
getting
a
a
while
wider
that,
you're getting a
yeah,
wider view.
yeah. And you could say, like, I'm into chess, so I'll go look for the podcast on chess. Or if you're into archery, or if you're into coins, you could go to a dedicated area and get people that are experts in that field just chatting. And to me, that's more genuine than getting information from other sources in the past. That's why Reddit, I think, is a great story, because it has a whole, that's all it's all about, all clubs and people talking, and you take it for what it's worth. And that's what I think we're morphing to. It's just different now. It's a different world. So yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that heavily. No more news. Yeah, maybe for the weather. That's about it. But I agree with you. Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's heavily influenced by advertising dollars, and if you look at a CNBC or a MSN, um, I mean, the nightly news, it's so biased. It's just become so obvious that they're one side or the other. And it's like, and then half the stuff that's put out, a lot of it ends up being fake or made up. And I think when you see shows like, I think, this may rattle some cages, but probably one of the best things that could have happened to the Harris campaign was her going on to Joe Rogan and just subjecting herself to what would come of it. Because
You're
then
talking
you would
about
have
Trump.
seen
No.
Harris didn't go
no,
on.
no, if Harris had gone on
Oh,
Rogan,
oh, right, right, right. Yeah. Right.
right, her refusal and her, if I'm going to do it, I have to do it this way. I mean, that was like a nail in the coffin, in my opinion. Whereas Trump got on there and I mean, Joe can ask him any question, you know, and he does. He pushes people when they need to be pushed. And so I honestly think it demonstrates more and more that this kind of media is becoming the dominant player in it. And of course, you can find channels that are biased to your opinion and feed your thinking, but I think more and more people are starting to recognize that what we have been fed for so many years is actually people are questioning it. Because I mean, you think about it, what have they been saying on the nightly news on NBC every night? The economy is great, things are good, yet you know it isn't. And I think the real people, regular people, stood up and said, listen, you guys have been lying to us. I'm paying more than I was to live 4 years ago, and 4 years before that, and 4 years before that. And you're not talking about doing anything different in the government. You're just going to spend more and do the same, more of the same. And yet Nancy Pelosi makes millions of dollars off trades that I can't get access to. Come on. I think that's, of course there's going to be a shift. I mean, there's a shift, but there's also extreme shifts. And of course, it'll run its course and probably do the same thing as regular media has done over the last 30, 40 years. But I think right now they're going elsewhere for their information. So
I
I'm
only hear
more
more
I'm
and
more
more
likely to
commercials.
believe Paul on any subject than the nightly news or CNBC. So, I think more people are thinking that way.
Did you see Comcast is spinning off Universal and MSNBC and NBC and all of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
My
just talked.
question is,
We just talked about
what
that.
happens to
Sorry,
them?
I had to take a call.
Oh no, yeah, we just went over that. We just did. Yeah, NBC, CNBC, MSNBC, USA, Oxygen, E, Sci-Fi, and a Golf Channel. They're going to keep Bravo, Peacock, and NBC Broadcast Network.
You're gonna see that spin out more and more, like Trent saying, they damaged themselves bad over the past since Trump came in office in 2016, it's crescendoed up constantly and
Yeah.
everybody sees through it. Now you have the access to get the information elsewhere, and it's good because now you can cut through the bullshit and find the true answers.
Yeah.
It's almost like, and I feel it and I see it, that since this election, and with the, and I don't mean to be, I'm not getting political, but Elon Musk, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, all Democrats who moved over, to Trump, took all the fire, took all the heat, opened it up for other people who might not have publicly said anything. And then they realized it's okay for them to have an opinion too, one way or the other. And if I'm an entrepreneur, I don't care what party I'm in. If my business is going to benefit by X or X1, that's who I want to in there, and I think it just opened it up, and you're seeing, the football dances and NFL dances, and the fact that the NFL had to have a discussion whether they're going to find people to do that or not was just another form of idiocy. It's like any dance they do.
NFL
Some of those
is,
dances they do, I mean, you don't want your kids to watch,
NFL is killing themselves. They had a market on Sunday and Monday night, and they decided to get greedy and they spun out. Now you got Thursday night, you got Sunday night games, you got Monday, there's 2 games.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oversaturation of it now, and
Yeah.
it lost its uniqueness.
Yeah. So anyway, I think in media, like Paul's saying with Reddit, there's going to be some opportunities where you're going to see value and money go to those type of organizations, where as they grow. So again, it's more of the long-term thinking we'll talk about this afternoon on the 3 o'clock call. But those are the trends that are interesting to see based on this election. And we haven't even got into it in the new administration yet, and you're already seeing things change, and it'll be interesting. It's gonna be an interesting 4 years, just like the last 4 were. So, okay, so let's get to my favorite subject of the week, and that's crypto. And let's start with MicroStrategy. And yesterday we were all on the live call at the end of the day for the last 30 minutes, or maybe even an hour. And I own MicroStrategy. I've owned it for a long time. And we were seeing price action go down. Okay. And let me just do the story here, and then we'll get into it. But we had a lot of people on the call. It was kind of fun yesterday afternoon. So Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy, the largest corporate holder of Bitcoin, announced on Monday, okay, that it spent $4.6 billion to acquire 51,780 Bitcoin, bringing its total Bitcoin holdings to 331,200. This move underscores Saylor's commitment to Bitcoin as a fundamental investment asset for the company, positioning it as a competitor to major Wall Street players like BlackRock, which currently holds the largest Bitcoin exchange-traded fund, the IBIT, with 471,329 Bitcoin. The average price MicroStrategy's paid for all these coins was approximately 49,000. That's their cost basis, 49,874. A strategic investment that reflects Saylor's belief in Bitcoin's long-term value despite its rising price. The company's total Bitcoin investment now amount to around 16.5 billion. This was as of Monday. That's when I think we're at 96 or something, 95, with current holdings valued nearly 30 billion. He's doubled his money basically. This aggressive accumulation strategy has not only boosted MicroStrategy's market presence, but has also significantly influenced its stock performance. MicroStrategy shares have skyrocketed 656% over the past year, illustrating growing investor confidence in Saylor's vision. MicroStrategy also revealed a strategic plan to raise $42 billion in capital over the next 3 years. The company intends to raise $21 billion through equity offerings, another $21 billion via fixed income securities to bolster its Bitcoin holdings. Bitcoin's record high drives MicroStrategies to a $100 billion market cap. Bitcoin's new all-time high of 94,000, which right now I was looking at, it's almost 100. It was at 99 when we started this. helped MicroStrategy breach 100 billion in market capitalization. MicroStrategy currently holds 331,000, worth 30.8 billion. This position built on a total cost basis of 9.91 billion. The company's stock recently hit a 24-year high. So it's been I mean, if you look at the chart, it's been straight up. And then yesterday we saw, you look at it hit the green line of death, as I call it. We had a nice comeback, and it came back within the Bollinger Band, and we were looking at it, and then it just kept going down and down. So I popped out of the live channel. I went and looked it up and found out why the reason. And I call it the Big Short. We found out that Citron Research, Andrew Left, believes the run in shares of MicroStrategy is not going to end well in the near term, and he's putting his money where his mouth is. Left yesterday announced a new short position in software firm turned Bitcoin holding company MicroStrategy, despite remaining bullish on the trajectory of Bitcoin. Left isn't alone in thinking the recent surge in MicroStrategy shares will last. Seabridge Capital partner Doug Cass announced a short position in MicroStrategy from 533.78 Thursday morning. At the time of the writing, which was yesterday afternoon, Cass had already covered at least 75% of his initial short. He closed half at 468, another quarter at 429. So we were watching this. Whoever was on, I know there's a bunch of us that were on. And let me pull up the chart here.
Okay.
And I'll share it.
Here you go.
Okay. Grab it here. Okay. It was really interesting. Let me put this up. We were watching it live. Oh, sharing's not on.
It is now. Is it now?
Yep.
Okay.
So I know several people were on and we were watching. Okay, this is yesterday. And here's the green line of death. You can see it. Yesterday we opened up here, actually above where the cells were. And then all of a sudden you saw this come back down. And initially I thought, when we were talking about it before I found out what was happening, we thought, well, it's just profit taking, because we went back, we looked at the long-term chart, and this thing is just, as real Paul would say, a banana zone. It just zoomed up. So we thought it was profit taking. And then I got in and I found out, oh my gosh, they're shorting it. And so we were talking among ourselves, and some of the members went up. They were looking at the short interest, this and that. And I'm looking at the chart, and David's like, well, is this an opportunity to get in? And, it was trading right in here. I'm like, well, it's under the Bollinger Band. I said, but if you really want to enter a position, the level of support is the 9. Okay. So, if you set a limit there, if you believed in it long term and it came down and hit it, that would be a pretty good entry point. So different people were on their own. They decided, they're putting in orders, and the orders were basically within this box, at the 9, about 373, 74, all the way up to like 380, I think people were putting in. And what happened is it came down and it touched the 9. I think it triggered a lot. I even bought some, I'm a long-term holder, but it touched the 9 and then it popped back up. So if you were at 380 or 370, whatever, it closed back up at 397 right here. So the technicals worked, and you're looking back and you see it. The 9 has been a pretty good level, okay, of support for MicroStrategy, and it hit there, and it looks like it tried to hit there again today. You can see today now we're up 434. We're up $37. So if you got in at, let's just say 380, okay, you're now up $50, $57, $60 on this one. Again, it came up. Here's your green line of death. If you're swing trading it, I'd pop out on that, Anyway, that was an interesting day. Anyone have anything to say on that? Guys that were in on it?
Yeah, I had an observation, Mark.
Yeah.
And I was, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we're all familiar here with kind of like psychological levels in the market, like round numbers and flat 5 numbers.
Right.
So just the whole strategic, Michael Saylor's placing his, average Bitcoin cost at just under that 50K mark, total psychological level for Bitcoin. You know, there's a possibility that after this current cycle run up, however high it ends up going, that when it comes back, 50K will be the new floor. And I find that also coincidentally, fascinatingly synced up with how the S&P right now is just kind of breaching that 600 level, you know, and we're going into 2025, you know, so it's like looking back on this, we're 5, 10, 20 years from now, we're going to really easily be able to look at a chart and go, oh, there's you know, 2025, Bitcoin is at 50,000 or 100,000, and then you know, S&P is at 600,000, and in my opinion, this is gonna be the new support level. We're breaching resistance right now, and everything's kind of wedging, and I think that after next year and beyond, that's going to be the new support level for the next era.
You think 50,000 will be?
I don't think Bitcoin is going to go much lower than 50,000 again. I think after this current cycle, once it runs up, I think Fibonacci 100% or forget which line it was, but a Fibonacci going up could mean Bitcoin could see like 130K maybe this cycle, maybe more.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, just this rising, this bullish pennant will
right,
get you to
and that's what the S&P looks like right now too.
Yeah.
So in
I
my
mean,
opinion, once we get past this mark in 2025, that's going to be the new support level, and we're gonna look back shocked at how high it's gone, because I don't think any of us can even comprehend. Like once the market caps of these, you know, these big tech companies and Bitcoin starts getting into the trillions rather than the billions, it's just going to be a whole new world.
It's already in the trillions.
Well, yeah, but I mean, and some of the big tech companies are just approaching that level now, you know.
But I mean, if you look at it, and I'm looking at it this way too, which isn't technical analysis, more fundamental. And I'm not selling any of mine. I've been in it since 2020, 2021. There's only 1.5 million Bitcoin left to be mined. Approximately 4 billion or 1.5 million left to be mined. 4 million have been lost or stolen or forgotten or thrown in their hard drive in a dump in England. You've got a high percentage of wallets that have never traded it. Once they got it, they just accumulate it. And then you've got Michael Saylor going to buy 42 billion. He's flying out to Redmond, Washington next month at the request of the board of Microsoft to go over how he did this, because they're thinking about it. Elon Musk has it in his treasury. Square puts 10% of their profits into Bitcoin. You're seeing 7 states in the United States with legislation to put Bitcoin into their treasuries. You're looking at the potential for the United States. There's a bill from the U.S. Senator from Wyoming to put 1 million Bitcoins in the U.S. Reserve. And that amount of demand with the least amount of supply, in my book, says that if that all comes to fruition, you're going to see this thing really go. You know, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I absolutely. And then I'm trying to figure out more about MicroStrategy in terms of what they actually do and you know, what their business model is. And from my understanding of it is that Michael Saylor basically doesn't ever intend to sell any Bitcoin, but only eventually store it and loan it or lend it back out. You know. And you know, with Trump getting in, there's a lot of talk about you know, him making it a reserve currency, and once that happens, it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be the U.S. government and MicroStrategy. So yeah, if you're lucky enough to hold your own, make sure you got it on a cold wallet, and yeah, I would say accumulate and look at this 2025 milestone of 50K, 100K. 50K being the marker that MicroStrategy set for their average cost basis or whatever, but then 100K being what it's actually at right now. You know, and also the S&P being at 600, and then just from there, yeah, accumulate things like this.
his cost basis will continue to rise because he does not look for the bottoms. He buys at the tops. He buys whenever.
Well,
So
yeah,
his-
and I guess that's my point that I'm getting at too, is that, you know, I'm saying that I'm of the mindset of that I'm not afraid to be accumulating at these levels. You know,
Yeah, I'm not.
Nvidia from like 125 to 145 range, I think is totally the new support. You know, Bitcoin, anything under 100K, you know, is going to be the new support. You know, S&P, you know, likewise, like Tesla, you know, 200, 300, you know, it's that's the way I've been playing it, and plan to keep playing it going forward anyway.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, and I actually bought some more the other day just because I wanted to get some under 100,000 again before you can't do it again.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And I've told you the story, and I'll just do it again. Months ago, we talked about Bitcoin Trent 9, and it was at 65,000. It was going from 52 to 70, but it was at 65,000. I told you the story that I was with my buddies drinking beer, and I told them, you know, if you would just put $6,500 into Bitcoin, you would buy 1/10 of a Bitcoin, and if it hit $100,000, you'd have $10,000. And last week we were sitting around the table, and some of my friends were like, man, did you see what happened to Bitcoin? My account went way up. And they were talking among themselves, like, yeah, you were right on that, blah, blah, blah. I want to buy a full one, blah, blah, blah. And there were a couple of them that were just silent. And I knew why they were silent, because they didn't do it. They didn't believe it, you know, because I told them at that point, you know, months ago, I said, you guys will be sorry, because we're going to be sitting in Bora Bora on our Bitcoin cruise, you know, with our profits. You're going to be sitting at home because you didn't do it. You didn't spend $6,500. And they laughed, you know. Well, the next day I got a text messages and calls from those guys. Hey, can you help me figure out how to buy some, you know, Bitcoin? So, you know, I said, well, you know, you're buying at the high. I said, but the motto that the true Bitcoiners say is, you know, when's the best time to buy Bitcoin? The first time you hear about it. Then what's the second best time to buy it? Today. You know, that's their motto. So it's interesting. I'm not telling everyone to go buy Bitcoin. I'm just saying it's an asset class out there. There seems to be a lot of demand for it, and there's only a certain amount of supply. You know, economics 101 is all about supply and demand. But if you're interested, just go out on. I got a few videos on the Platinum Crypto channel with Michael Saylor in them, and a couple of you have looked at it because I've gotten DMs from you saying, "Hey, it's really good." Or you can just go out on YouTube and just type in Michael Saylor Bitcoin. He talks at all the major conventions, and he'll talk to anyone. And you know, you ask him one question, and he can go on for 3 hours, you know, and give you the entire history and why he did it, and what it is, and all that. So by the end, you'll be well educated, more than most people, on what it is. So
Mark,
anyway,
hey, Mark, I want to bring this up. This flood into Bitcoin from governments, countries, large corporations. You mentioned that a lot of people have bought and they've never sold it. What happens down the road if there's 1.5 million Bitcoin still to be mined?
Approximately.
If
Yeah, over like
if
40
the-
years or so, right?
Right, but if that supply that is available now, and say over the next 4 years, is gobbled up by these big corporations who don't and governments that don't let go of it, what happens to the price growth of it?
It's got to be. I think you could answer your own question.
I mean, it stagnates.
And Michael Saylor says 13 million of coin.
But if there's not enough, well, yeah, I mean, and granted, 1.5 million shares still
There
available
is
to
the
mine over
group
the next 40
of
years.
people that are going to continue to trade Bitcoin and not just accumulate. But
True.
Yeah,
True.
there'll always be a market. You know, you're seeing a market today. You know, there's the whole market.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting. You know, we're at 99,000 right now.
final point on MicroStrategy is that instead of, you know, potentially buying, you know, shares of Michael Saylor's company, I'd rather actually buy actual Bitcoin. But there's the how do you get exposure if you're in a Roth IRA or if you're in a certain account?
Right here.
It's you got to be able to if you want a certain percentage allocated in all of your accounts, you have to be able to potentially utilize some of the resources like a company like MicroStrategy would offer, or some of the some of the BlackRock ETFs or anything like that.
Here's IBIT. You can see this is the iShares Bitcoin Trust. This is the BlackRock, and you can see it's trading right up between the 9 and the Bollinger. Got some sells here, but on this chart, the resistance level isn't there. So, this is, I got into this when it first came out for just what you said, Eric, for my retirement accounts, because you couldn't put regular Bitcoin in there, Now that may change under the next 4 years. We'll see. But yeah, you got a lot of options. This MicroStrategy. I've talked a lot about income strategies with this MSTY, which is riskier than most. Okay. But it's part of my income strategy. And they just had a dividend here. And when you have a dividend, your price is going to go down. They had a dividend of $4.22 per share. Okay. And it's a strategy based on MicroStrategy. And it's called Misty. And it's an option income strategy. So they bet that MicroStrategy is going to go up. If MicroStrategy goes down, you're going to see you're not going to get the 422. I mean, the last one was 418, I think. The last distribution, all right, here. And then here's a big one. And you can see what happened to price action. We talked about this yesterday too, I think, didn't we, Mike, about Misty, and how today, this is usually a good day on distribution day to buy. Okay, so I actually did buy some more of this. It's riskier. Don't buy it because I buy it. Look into it. I've got some information on my Discord under my office that'll show you about this. But here it went up again. Look at that, right up to where the 9 is. But where again, if you're swing trading it, you probably would be out. But since I use it as a part of my income strategy, I just leave it in. So again, this is another way that, and then, with IBIT, yesterday they opened up options on these so that traders can trade options on these ETFs. And according to what you hear, that's going to help with reducing the volatility of a lot of the Bitcoin trade. So it's just an interesting new asset, and it's finally caught fire, and everybody's excited about it. But just be careful because it's based on mathematics. You can go look at Plan B, has some YouTube videos out there. It talks about stock to flow, and you can learn about the cycles in the Bitcoin process. You can learn about the halving of the Bitcoin process. You can go to the internet and get the Nakamoto's Satoshi's white paper. It's 9 pages long, and read it if you want. That's the Bible of a lot of the people.
And also the value is kind of directly correlated to the integrity of blockchain technology. Because the more Bitcoin strengthens, the more it's saying that people have trust in in the network and the technology and its security and use and all that.
Yeah. And I think it's a part of AI too, with the technology in there. So, this is just an interesting way to go look at it.
Mark.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Brian. Can you help me in understanding the reason why anyone would at this point short MicroStrategy? What is the explanation, and does that explanation make sense based on what you know and what you're seeing?
I'm going to defer this to Mike because Mike had good explanation yesterday on this particular company that's doing it.
Oh, thanks. Put me on the spot. I appreciate it.
No, you had good explanation. Yeah.
It's the gentleman that runs Citron is really a piece of shit, excuse the French. What he does is he finds companies and he attacks them with short positions. What he does is he has a pool of individuals that buy his research. He'll come out and say, hey, we're going to short this company, in this case, MicroStrategy. So he'll give his clients days to set their short positions, whether it's options or straight up shorts or what have you. And then once this goes public, to the news media, you're going to get the reflection in your stock price. So once it goes out public, the price is going to be at a peak, close to a peak. In this case, it was. If you look at the chart, the candle comes down. It's a long red one. It's all the shorts selling out at a prearranged price, basically. So what is he doing? He's creating the environment to make money for his clients with a fast short position. So as we looked at it yesterday, and the numbers might be wrong, but it was about 15% as of yesterday after they started closing their shorts. So they were up close to 20% of the outstanding shares. So when you close out those short positions, you're buying to cover your short position, and that's going to put downward pressure on the stock. And that's what you saw with the long candle.
And we watched it live yesterday, didn't we?
I didn't catch that.
I said we watched it live yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite interesting to watch it live. Brian, does that help?
So how long is he shorting, or how long are they shorting?
Well, it depends. It's generally not that long of a time. My experience with it was the guy was in like a day before or 2 days before, and it was a new account, and the guy went huge on the short position, and I think he netted like 600 or 700 grand.
So it
And
sounds like he's trying to manipulate the market
it's exactly what it is, but
just for
it's
this day. Okay.
but it's kind of like what we talk about in this group. You know, it's with us, it's not out there. We're not public. We don't have Series 7s, which says we can go out to the public and sell and what have you. He's basically using that because he's selling his research to a closed group of individuals. So that's how he gets around the manipulation aspect of it. But that's exactly what he's doing. He's manipulating the market to make a profit on a non-existent research report, basically, or no content to the research report. He'll come up with a bullshit reason to short it. And again, that's how you can affect the price to, in his case, to advantage his clients who are paying him like 10 grand a year to get his research.
Yeah,
Wow.
Hindenburg does the same thing. They're another shorting house that does the same thing.
Well, Hindenburg got beat up pretty bad about doing that.
Yeah.
Citron didn't for some reason, and I forget why. It's been a while.
Yeah. This can happen to any one of your stocks. They just pick it, you know.
That's where risk management comes in on your swing trades, but you should also think about that on your regular portfolio.
Yeah.
Always have some kind of out. God forbid, man, you go to work and you can't look at your stocks, you don't get an alert or what have you, and next thing you know, it's nothing. And that's what's happened a few times with the more as trading goes electronic. You get these flash disruptions, I guess would be the best term, that can really put you in a bad position. So that's something you should all take into consideration, you know, with all your positions, whether it's a swing trade or a long position or what have you, you know.
I mean, we saw this yesterday and you know, it went up and I'm like, okay, well, it hit its cells. So that's why it's coming down and people are taking profit. And it was above the, you know, the intermediate resistance level. But, and then it got, you know, under the Bollinger. I'm like, oh, this is good. You still have, technically, you're still looking good other than, you know, the oscillators down here crossing. But then I got really, when it's kept going down and down, that's when I dropped off. And I said, something's going on here. You know, this isn't just selling because Bitcoin's going up, you know, yesterday. And,
you know, part
and
of
that's
that
where we looked into it.
strategy, part of that strategy that he does also looks for certain volume companies that he's going to go after because of the algos that are back there. That's going to accentuate the trading and propel it even further to an advantage to the short seller.
Yeah.
You know, it's all manipulation, bottom line.
It was nice that, you know, we actually called the bottom just because of this support level, and that's exactly where it hit.
Mm.
I'm happy that those who decided to get in got in around in this little box right here. And again, if you were swing trading, I'd probably gotten out when it touched this line here. MicroStrategy for me is a longer term hold. I just feel I got a better price, and dollar cost average is a little bit added into my position already. So it was a fun exercise to sit there in the afternoon and have everyone just look at the same chart, discuss it, you know, make a trade if they wanted to, and then it worked out. So I'm so happy that it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and everyone participated, and it was a good time. So anyway, that's our Bitcoin deal for the day. But it's taken a lot of the press, but you know, this 100K deal is kind of a big deal, and that's why I bring it up. And that seems to be where a lot of the money has gone is towards the crypto. Here's your SMCI daily chart. We talked about SMCI. Paul brought it up. Looks like a good swing trade, and you know it's doing everything. It's under the 200, which would be classified as bearish. But you know, you look at all the oscillators, and again here it hit some sell orders here. We'll see where it ends up. But for me personally, there's just too much crap out there on the audit situation and knowing who the auditors are. For me, yeah, the technicals look like you could get a little bit higher, but you know, you got the Bollingers are converging. So I'm staying away from this one, but you know, it has the ability to, you know, go up, maybe hit the 50, has the ability to, you know, go down, maybe hit the 9. So that's SMCI. Let's look at NVIDIA. We'll get through a couple of these that we talked about. Here's NVIDIA. You can see it cruised right along the intermediate resistance level. Here's your earnings. Came down, back up yesterday. Now we're trading down below the 9 and below the 20 at the moment. We're seeing a continually deceleration of the MACD, the stochastic RSI is down to just about 51 now. So again, we're seeing some weakness in NVIDIA. We talked about Marriott laying off people. Marriott's just been going sideways. They're trying to get past its green line of resistance. That's right where the sell orders are. Got a little bit of a bump up in the oscillators, and you know, we'll see it. Something has to happen to get it past this line of resistance in a sustainable way. Otherwise, we're either going sideways or we're going to come back down, in my opinion. Deere, we talked about John Deere. Deere had good earnings. You can see what's going on with Deere, and it was under the 50, you know, under the 9 popped up. Earnings came, and now it's off to the races. No intermediate resistance level. We got sells at 454 and change. Boeing, we talked about layoffs at Boeing. Boeing now is under the 200. It looks like we're getting a full candle close. So this would be, you know, potential under the 200, kind of risky situation, knowing what Boeing's going through. But you got 2 lines here. Obviously, the traders believe that the 50 will be resistance because that's where they put their sell orders right there. So you don't have much to the upside, basically on that chart, in my opinion. Walmart just, you know, cruising after earnings. Again, this would be on a momentum play. We don't have any resistance, hard resistance above it. Oscillators are good. You know, that's, again, that would be a momentum. That'd be on the momentum list for next week if it remains. Target is the opposite. Okay, their earnings, they were cruising right along, just got above the 200 finally again, and then boom. You see where the sell orders are. It's still outside of the lower Bollinger Target. Earnings took them down. Netflix, Let's see, this one was looking good last time I looked at, yeah, look at that. Still a momentum play. We're talking about it, right, Paul? Here we go. Following the
I'm in,
Bollinger.
baby. I'm in it.
I figured you would be. Ford, we talk about Ford and its troubles, but something happened today, popped it up a bit. Okay, above the 9. We'll see. Nothing I would really get into at this point. CMC SA Comcast. We talked about Comcast. Okay, not much room for me because I got this green line of death sitting right there, and nothing that I would want to. I would personally do. We looked at MicroStrategy, looked at Coinbase. Meta was another one people were talking about. Meta's got a downward trending 9, downward trending 20. We're trading under the 9 and the 20. Underneath on the Bollingers, we're gonna have a crossover. Looks like on the negative crossover and stochastic, and then we got an RSI under 50. Trend is down for Meta right now. Amazon, same. Looks kind of like the Meta chart. This we got wider on the stochastic and on the MACD. Green line of death. Microsoft with still got a kind of a downtrend, kind of hitting off the green line of death, and a very small area of between intermediate support and intermediate resistance. Got the oscillators are not looking all that good on Microsoft yet. Google, for those of you who have Google, I'm sorry. Here's what happened after yesterday. But the good point is it came down and hit the 200 and didn't get past it. It's done that before. The bad part is that the oscillators are all looking bad. So we'll see if we go into sideways action for a while on Google. We'll see if it gets below the 200, which is a hard level of support. And if it gets below, it's going to be a hard level of resistance. Nice thing is you have your intermediate support level pretty even with that. So you got 2 good levels of support right here. But if you were in it, that was a shocker on that day for sure. So in conclusion, I mean, I'm looking at the Mac 7s and I'm just looking at the crypto area. And to me, Trent, and tell me what you guys think. It just seems like the money is kind of moved out of the Mac 7 right now and more into crypto on the big money moves where we're seeing it. Anywhere else you seeing the money move? I mean, in a big sector way?
Oh yeah. I see a lot of money going into energy.
Yeah.
And I see natural gas.
Natural
Natural
gas
gas, you
big time.
stocks you see.
I have
Fintech.
OKE was one of
What
them.
was that one?
OKE.
OKE.
That's one of them. What other? OKE. KGS.
There's Cheniere. That's liquid natural gas.
Oh, LNG. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the other one? K something?
KGS. Natural gas.
And you're getting in, you got to watch the volumes a little, but you're getting into winter season and you will see fluctuations up in natural gas. And I think with if the war ticks up, you'll see more in the energy go up too. And, as far as crude oil and stuff.
What I found about trading natural gas is you have to look at what NOAA says is the long-term weather, and then take it with somebody else who goes on the opposite. And what you're going to find, everybody trades what NOAA does, not what a different long-range forecaster would have. So if you can find the variance there, you can do very well, but you can also get creamed.
It's pretty quick. Yeah.
Very
Noticed
quick.
a lot of movement upwards in fintech companies like Robinhood, SoFi, PayPal, Affirm.
And I'd say a lot of those are tied to Bitcoin also in crypto, especially Robinhood.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. But they're also offering, they're offering these kind of one-stop shops completely, online, where you're never gonna have to go to a bank again, where you can get a home loan, a business loan, you can do investing at the same time as regular banking, it's
Well, you've seen the
That's
banking
gonna be
industry
be
move.
interesting, don't you think? How the big banks are going to try to squash that because they don't want their business taken away. And big banks run a lot, JP
Yeah.
Morgan's, Goldman Sachs, those guys.
but the new generation is not going to want to deal with them because they're already going to have these apps on their phones, and it's just going to be much easier for them to start working with them.
Yeah, you
Unless
only
they
see
get
more.
I'm already using a few of them, and I think it's great. And I've
Brick
been
and
a
mortars
Capital
are
One
shutting
customer
down
for a long time.
unless they get legislation to shut those down for some reason.
Yeah. Well, you're seeing that sector move due to the election. There's an anticipation that, Trump's going to loosen up regulations on their industry. And between us, I don't think so. He's had too many encounters with large banks and not really to the positive for him. I mean, he would only trade with Deutsche Bank. They were the only ones that would lend the money. So does he have a bone to pick with them, some of the bigger ones? I would bet on yes.
Hmm.
So that's a short-term thing,
Unless there's a new and improved Trump, we don't see yet, but more kinder and gentler.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on this a little
Well-
bit. We talked about this.
Money is just your point. There's plenty of places that money's flowing to. I wouldn't go to the Mag 7s, but
Yeah.
there's
No.
plenty other 52-week flyers that are just doing tremendous. So
Yeah.
that's just enough. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, we looked at Trump trades, on election day. We had our 2Regular guy show. We talked about energy. We talked about banks. We talked about prisons. We talked about crypto, and those seem to be where everything's going right now because that's what his platform was, This is
Yeah.
just I put this on my office here, and this just shows because I put that strategy out a couple of weeks ago about monthly income, and I just use 4 of these option income from Yield Max. And back then I said, okay, this is the example. You buy 100 shares of each, and at the time this is what it was, and so you spent 81.60, and here's what the month of October did. Okay, you made 750. In November, these are the distributions if you kept it. Okay, just like this. So you made 750 in October off these, and 800. These are on 100 shares each, so on 8,100 bucks. And then I just went and I did a appreciation from where the cost basis was and where the current price was as of the 20th, and it shows your gain, $2,100 just on your gains of, and that's mostly due to MicroStrategy, Misty, and Tesla, which is Tesla. But on top of your 800, 750, you're up 2,100 on your just on your growth part of it. So anyway, this is something I use, and again, don't use it because I use it. Do your own due diligence, not financial advice. But as I'm seeing Treasury bill yields go down, 4.5%, and we'll see how they go next week. But I'm just looking for a little more yield. I still use Treasuries. I do. They're safe, they're monthly, but I'm looking for a little more yield, and I just offered that because that's something I use. It's know the risk. You can go up on my Discord channel, and I go through the risk of using these. It's riskier because your net asset value, when they pay out 420, it takes it off the top of your cost, your price. So if you're trading at $10, they take 420 off. Now you're 420 less than $10. So you're 580, or whatever it is. So just be careful. So we're trying to provide some more areas of where you can look into and, get out, expand beyond just owning a share of a stock. And I know that Trent's been working on the long-term side. We're going to talk about that at 3:00, and we've got some good stocks, and we'll look at them both from a long-term technical and a fundamental basis. And so we're trying to provide as much on each side as possible without getting anyone hurt, and making money and watching our risk, managing our risk. Because as I say, the first rule making money is don't lose money. Because once you lose money, it takes a while to get it back.
Hey,
So
Trent,
anyway,
on
that's
that, I
all.
got a question.
Go ahead.
Sure.
There's some, as I'm going through, I've been trying to find dividend stuff for my wife's account and just make that a rollover for her. I can just go away with it. And I've come across an issue that I want to reach out to my accountant and talk to him about it, but I thought maybe you might know. There's certain high yield ETFs that basically have a negative NAV. So the
Yep.
NAV is constantly coming down through the life of it,
Mhm.
but your yield coming out is always going to be high. Now, my question is, if you do that for a tax loss at the end of the year, being as it's a depreciating NAV, can you write that off as a loss and still take the profit and disclose that as income and not raise red flags per se? Because if you
I'm not
can,
a,
then you can create yourself your own wash at the end of the year of how to generate and harvest that quote unquote loss.
so you're
So
not
let me,
you're not actually having a loss until you sell it. But go ahead, Trent.
yeah, so are you selling it at the end of the year?
That's what I'm thinking. You know, you hold it for 10, 11 months and then you sell it, you take your loss, you rebuy it back, you know, do it sometime in the second week in December, you know, when the markets start slowing down. So
Make
that way
sure
you're
you're,
not gonna
make
lose
sure you're 31
30
days, I
days.
think,
31
out.
days.
But I'm
Yeah,
curious if that's gonna raise red flags with the IRS that you're pulling in
well, I
income on
guess,
something and selling it then.
No, because they're going to
so,
tax you on that. They're going to tax you on those capital gains.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
you're not going to have capital gains. You're going to have a loss because if you're buying this ETF at $10 and by the time December comes around, if it's a depreciating NAV, you're going to get down to about 850, say.
what's the price? So if you bought it at $10, is it, you sell it at 9?
Yeah, something like that. And then meanwhile, you're taking in 30% income.
Take
I
into
would have to.
account the length of time, because if it's a long-term capital gain, it's a year
Right,
holding period. If it's less than that, it's ordinary income.
right.
So,
But
but you are getting the loss. So yeah, but don't. What is the rule on short-term losses? How do they apply?
I
I don't
forget,
think
man.
they do.
That's back in my accounting days, and I forget.
I
I
think
They're going
forgot
to
that's,
more than
change
I
too.
remember.
They change those things
yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
And I would definitely sit down with your CPA and say, I have this position. I bought it on, say, January 2nd, 2024. I bought it at 10. It's now at 9. I'm going to sell it. Is that $1 loss per share? What does that apply to?
Yeah.
You probably could Google it, but
I'm gonna, I need to research that, but I want to do it. You had mentioned on a Friday call, I think it was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, that you know, how rich people set up their own S corps or LLCs and then they run it. Just to
yeah,
have that in it where you're taking a loss, but you're taking the income to reduce your tax and then
right.
trying to
Yeah,
put a little
it's sort
tax.
of like, at the end of the day, it's everything with a S or a LLC. All those gains or losses flow to your personal income. So if your company has a loss for the year, then that applies to your overall income
Right, which
or to your
reduces.
personal tax return,
Yeah.
which, depending on how that plays out, it could actually be where you owe nothing
Yeah.
What
because you have
about the
substantial
dividend
losses.
income?
Hmm.
Where's the dividend income percentage at?
Say that again,
Tax.
Brian.
The dividend income, where is that tax? Where's that capital gains tax going to be?
That's not a
Ordinary-
capital.
If it's
That's
held
ordinary
if
income.
it's held individually, it's taxed as income
Income.
or dividend income on your 1040. If it's in a corporation, I would assume it's seen as income, and it's a part of that your corporate tax return, and
Okay,
then
so that
whatever is
wouldn't
at the
flow in
bottom
with the
line.
NAV then.
Hmm.
that would not flow in with the NAV as a combined income?
Yeah, no. The NAV, what we're talking about, Brian, is, or what I'm talking about, I should say, is a diminishing NAV. So again, you buy in at 10, by the end of the year, it might be $9. So you turn around, you sell it at 9, you're taking $1 loss on that. But you've taken in 30% income across. So it's two different things. So if the
One thing years ago we bought, what was it, USO for clients, and that is not, I think you get a K1 on some of those ETFs.
That's a partnership. Yeah.
Yeah, and
generally-
those can be
generally-
confusing as well.
Yeah, but generally what I've found, I own a couple private investments and get a K1s on them, but they finagle them that there's always it's negative. It doesn't affect you per se unless
Well,
you
in
millions of
this
dollars.
scenario, the K1 actually showed a profit, yet the stock purchase and sell was a negative.
Yeah,
So they distributed profits out through the K1, and it made for an interesting phone call.
yeah. How long
Uh,
ago was that? Try-
how long ago?
Yeah,
It was a while back. It was before the pandemic.
yeah.
It was when oil sort of spiked or something like that. We sort of traded it in a sense and held it for like over 30 days or something.
I think
And
they
it brought to attention how some of these ETFs are formed. Some are partnerships, like Mark was saying, and some are straight, so you got to do that research as well. So,
you gotta be careful. All the K1s I get though are all basically show that it's a kind of a wash.
yeah,
So you get like
yeah,
10 to 30 pages on the K1, but the bottom line is not that much.
I hate
yeah,
those K1s because they don't send them to you till June, you
Yeah,
know?
or later. I just got
I know.
2 for last
I,
year.
yeah,
I know it sucks. That's why I don't do them anymore. I don't do them. I want to show
yeah.
I want to show Miguel wanted to look at Berkshire here. I'll put that up real quick. I'm sorry, I miss these notes sometimes. We have Berkshire in our paper trade portfolio. You can see it's above the 9. Got in right at this point, still above. It's heading up. You got Bollinger's rolling up. Or got an upward upward trending 9, upward trending 20, upward trending 50 or above the 200. You've got a nice MACD. You've got an embedded stochastic, and you've got an RSI above 63 right now. So again, here's what cost basis is right at the 9. So, if you're looking at this, you want to protect yourself, put it above the 9, which is above your cost basis. If it comes down, it'll stop you out. If you don't want to, you go down to the 20. If you want to do that, you'll lose some money on that. Otherwise, you could take profit at any time. But right now, it's looking pretty good, diverging Bollinger Bands. I always like Berkshire. It's been a good one for me, and I don't mind owning it or trading it. And the other one he wanted was Uber. Is Miguel still on?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uber from a swing trade, it's right up against its green line of death for me. I'm seeing downward trending, Bollinger's downward trending, 20 downward trending. Well, it's kind of slim now a little bit on the 9. We got a 200 right here, which is a hard level of resistance. We got cells right below it, and I got intermediate line of resistance there. A little bit of a pop here on some of the oscillators. The RSI is still not at 50, and we're still below on the MACD. So probably nothing that I would be interested on Uber. So I just wanted to get those because he had them in the notes. Hopefully Miguel's still on and he sees that. Okay, sorry. That's all I got. Anyone else?
Mark, I've noticed you guys haven't talked a whole lot about it. This is the best day that I've seen Kerry's stocks do. And a lot of it is fundamentals.
Which we'll talk about at 3, yeah.
So So are you gonna go over Navitas and Sound and Applied? And I mean, these guys all had great, Navitas reported 571% increase in their revenue. I don't know if you knew that today. 571% increase in 3-year revenue.
Was that, David, was that, earnings today? Cause I thought it went up based on an article that they were,
What
Yeah,
it
go
looks
ahead.
like what they did is they published, there's a company out there called Deloitte Technology Fast 500, which rates all the companies.
Yeah.
And they announced that Navitas has been acknowledged for the 3rd consecutive year by strong demand of its high efficiency, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Navitas achieved 571% growth on their new technology. And
Yeah, I read that this morning and bought.
right. So that's why you see what's happening is the shorts are getting squeezed big time, and Navitas is up 20% today.
And to your point, that's a carry stock, right?
That's a carry stock.
Yeah, okay.
And then SoundHound announced that one of their customers, they put out a big article about how one of their customers achieved 20% more efficiency or whatever. And SoundHound is now up 21% today.
That's crazy.
So both of those two up 21%. Of course, we've already talked about micro strategies. Iris Energy up 11%.
What's that about?
SMR is up 11%.
Got
Super
that.
Micro up 10%. Applied is up another 8%. Applied has now made a new all-time high. And almost all of these stocks are reporting fundamental successes. So Kerry's stocks are going through the moon right now. It's been a phenomenal day.
Well,
What's
we'll,
up
So
with
what I
Iris?
did,
we'll
Iris?
definitely talk about that at the 3 o'clock.
Yeah. So just to tell you the format, since Kerry's doing his graduation thing today, Mark and I decided it would be pretty cool if we took a selection of stocks that you all wanted to talk about, plus a handful of Kerry's stuff, and looked at the fundamentals and what we're seeing. I look at things from a quarterly year-over-year growth acceleration or deceleration. And so I'm going to share that with you along with, and then Mark's going to break the technicals down on it, more of an intermediate to long-term perspective. So we'll also be able to throw in at the end, because I want to make it sort of, not quick, but leave open for discussion. And then we can also throw in some ideas, because I can pull the data on them immediately and fill my chart system. So it should be pretty cool, pretty interactive. So yeah, but I will
Okay.
definitely
So,
throw
David-
those in as well, David.
So are you gonna be there at 3 o'clock, David?
Right now, I would say yes.
Okay, I know Margarita hour starts early
Yeah.
on Fridays out there.
Oh, that's more likely he's gonna show up. If it's
He does live
He's
in
happy.
Margaritaville, so
I might be in here with a margarita at the
That'd be
3 o'clock show, because this has been the best day I've had in 2 months at least.
good. I'm glad you're having a good day. Yep, hope everyone is. So,
All right, guys.
all right, we will see you at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Sounds
Go
good.
get some lunch.
Thank y'all.
All right,
Good day.
Take care.
see you guys.
Toodaloo. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.